on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of Crypto Zombie. So today is Wednesday. Welcome back to the channel, but it certainly feels like a hump day today. We have Bitcoin down 1.5%. A lot of the altcoins you can see as well putting in some mild losses. We do have some gainers across the board. None of them really incredible gains, but I do want to talk about that because we could see basically, essentially what happened was we were trying so hard to break above the 200 daily moving average yesterday. In fact, we got up to about $8,549. We did stay above it on some of the lower time frames, but unfortunately we could not close above the 200 daily, and currently we do find ourselves back exactly where we started. So essentially, if you haven't been paying attention to the charts for basically the past 3.5 months, we formed this giant triangle after pumping up 400%, only to get to almost the very end and have a 40% dump. And you can see right now we are being held down by the 200 daily moving average. Now, obviously, some of the Bitcoin haters out there couldn't wait to chime in on this. Peter Schiff, the gold bug, obviously saying, well, we broke out of the triangle. We have to go down to 4,000. Clearly, that is the next level. And a lot of people were very disappointed about backed futures. You can see right here, backed volume bot says yesterday we traded 28 contracts, down 79%. The day before, 132, all-time high, 166. And currently, I will refresh this live. Yeah, we are sitting at 17. So it looks like backed is essentially starting off as quite a flop, not to mention the fact that volume is absolutely terrible today. Bitcoin sitting around 327 million, Tether not even putting over 500, fear and greed still sitting in the fear level. Now, listen, I'm not saying that it's just Bitcoin, okay? S&P 500 is not exactly having the greatest week either. You can see they actually took a pretty big fall yesterday, but the question is, regardless, isn't Bitcoin supposed to be non-correlated, right? Isn't it supposed to do its own thing? Well, I do want to point out two things really quick. We did have this article from Times that came out. You can see Hong Kong's political crisis deepens, and actually we saw Bitcoin volume hit the highest over the counter we've ever seen in Hong Kong. So is that a response? Also, we have this German bank coming out with this report essentially saying that Bitcoin could hit $90,000 by May of next year if we continue to look at the stock to flow ratio. So essentially, that is what I want to talk about today. Of course, we're going to talk about short-term price action. That's obviously very interesting to a lot of people, but I also want to talk about these fundamentals and what's going on geopolitically, because we are seeing a lot of different, basically it's just split right down the middle, right? Half the community is saying this is terrible. You know, we're back in a bear market. We're going to go down to 3K, right? And the other part of the community is saying, hey, it's only a 40% pullback. This happens all the time. You know, just relax and we're going to go to the moon. Well, that is what we are going to discuss today. And if that sounds good to you, well, you know what to do. Also, if you are not subscribed to the Crypto Zombie channel, we do this every single day, so you definitely don't want to miss out. And of course, everybody knows on Mondays, we do a Ledger Nano S hardware wallet giveaway. All you have to do is drop a comment on literally any video throughout the course of the week. Now, having a look, I just had this pulled up because I wanted to save this. Looking at some of these altcoins, you do see Centrality is having a massive pump today, but with $84,000 worth of volume, I would definitely be very, very careful with that. Zilliqa is up, however. They did have some good news, some of it actually related to unstoppable domains, actually. Chainlink, Ren, BitTorrent, Ardor, Elastos, and Zcoin, but for the most part, quite minimal gains across the board. Obviously, switching to the top coins, mostly in the red today, okay? So, that's the situation. But hey, I know what you're saying. It's October. And didn't the anonymous 4chan prediction say that we're going to have a $16,000 Bitcoin by October? What's going on, guys? Well, obviously, this is something to clearly be taken with a grain of salt, but let's actually talk about it. What's going on with price? Well, currently you can see right here, we are out of the blue box territory, not by much, but we still are being stomped out by the 200 daily moving average. Now, the one thing I do want to point out is we are seeing the MACD start to almost look like they want to touch, but I do just want to point out that we have had situations where, you know, it did touch, we had a little pump only to have a subsequent dump after that. So just be careful with that. But having a look, if we like zoom in really close on the 4 hour, you can see that we did close 2 candles above this 200 daily moving average, but it was only on the 4 hour. And now we've actually been trending somewhat downwards, only being held by the $8,191 level right here, which I think the more we hit it, the more we're going to essentially weaken it, and that's not a good thing because we don't have much volume, if we go much lower, which we've talked about and I will talk about in just a second. But I just want to show you that if we look at the two green lines, they're basically creating that channel that we started putting in once we had this touchdown here on July 2nd. So we were in a triangle, but ultimately we have maintained this downwards trend. You could see we've been supported by it. So it's nice to see that Bitcoin is actually playing out somewhat how we thought it might. But here's the situation. We do have this trend coming up here. We have this support, which we've broken several times. We need to get above this $8,788 level, and you can see right here, we are getting closer and closer. So as we begin to be pushed down with the resistance of this 200 moving average, and we get closer to this resistance of the $8,700 level, if we are not able to break above it, then it's not going to be good for Bitcoin short term. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. However, on the flip side, if we are able to break above this $8,788 level, in fact, you remember we had that conversation with Josh Rager where he had mentioned potentially putting in a long somewhere in between this level, because as you can see right here, the $9,100 level was sort of the bottom of the triangle. So sort of right in here could be a decent pocket to put in a long potentially, but obviously be safe out there and put your stops in. But if we do continue to get stomped out by that resistance, then basically, we're either going to go lower or we're going to basically continue to go sideways, but eventually this downwards resistance is going to get us either way, right? So that's the situation. You can see right here. Here's sort of another look at it. Some people are saying maybe we're forming some kind of a, pennant or a flag or something like that. But point being, we just came from a massive, massive drop. We're going sideways. This is short-term bearish. You sort of can't deny that unless we get above some of these key levels. Having a look at the VPVR again right here, you notice around that $8,400 level, $8,500, where we do keep getting stomped out is an issue. But then right here, we run into kind of that pocket where you don't have much trading. So once again, getting above 10,200 would be great, but let's be real, we need to really get above 8.8 first. But I wanted to talk about the disappointment of Backed and the fact that, institutions seem to not really care about Bitcoin. And we were all rooting for the institutions to save us, right? But I wanted to sort of point out this crypto carnage segment that they did over here on Power Lunch and point out what Lou Kerner was talking about and how he basically said, we don't really need institutions. We didn't need them for the pumps that we had at the previous all-time highs, especially the retail-driven madness of 2017. So why do we need them now? Well, I'm not going to take any more time away from Lou. I'm going to give him the stage, and basically you could see what he had to say.
A couple things happened. The futures launched over the weekend, and then also the Backed launch. Both seem to be the start of the decline. So Lou, what's your take on what's gone on?
Buy on the rumor, sell on the news. We knew this was coming for a long time. I've always thought Bitcoin is not about institutions. Actually, it's the antithesis of institutions. And these kinds of revolutions, whether it's even going back to e-commerce on the internet, it wasn't for 5 years after Amazon launched that Walmart launched. So, we don't need institutions to come to this party for Bitcoin to break out again.
That's certainly a different tune from a couple of years ago when that was seen as a longer term catalyst, that once institutions finally get in, they're going to have a wave of money going into Bitcoin, and that'll be the next leg higher.
People have been saying that for a long time, and we've had a lot of legs higher without any institutional involvement. It's coming. It's like gravity. They're going to be here, but they are not going to lead the party. They're going to be followers.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting statement that Lou makes, because usually in traditional markets, you have all of these accredited investors that get into all these really great opportunities before the rest of us, and then the retail kind of gets the sloppy seconds, right? Well, that's not the situation with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is actually the opposite, whereas, it was basically started as a cypherpunk type movement with a lot of early techies and developers and a lot of retail people, like you and I, average everyday people that are owning the Bitcoin before the institutions actually got into it. So that is one pretty interesting thing that I do like to talk about, but hey, let's talk doom and gloom. Why not, right? Because everybody's saying, whoa, what if this is just one giant downwards channel and we're just going to go to these crazy low levels like Alessio Rastani was saying 3K, or even touching some of these low levels around the 2K level? Well, I just want to point out once again, guys, that the 200 weekly moving average has supported Bitcoin basically throughout both bear and bull, and that is sitting at around $4,580. You can see right over there. I personally don't think Bitcoin's going going any lower than that. But, having a look right here short term, one thing I pointed out yesterday is when you do switch to the hike and a she candles, you can use the regular or the hike and a she, we have noticed that we've put in 2 green candles. So often hike and a she does help you with the trend changes. Now, I did point out, we had 1 here and 1 here, but we have put in 2 so far. So I am keeping my eyes on this if we're going to be having that trend reversal, but talking once again about those levels, those key levels that we spoke about with Josh Rager, and also keeping our eyes on the VPVR. Once again, you can see that we are stuck between this support right here around the 7,900 and this green level that we need to get above, which is the, high 8.7, 8.8, okay? I'm not going to reiterate everything I've been saying, but the reason that that's so important is because if we fall lower than this, we don't have a lot of trading happening in that range. And unfortunately, the next level is around 5.1. And the level after that is around 4K. But I already told you I don't think we're going to go below that 4.5 level. Obviously, we didn't have nearly as big of a drop as we did in the 2018 end of the bear market. That was 50%. We're only down about 24% from the edge of the triangle right now. If we were to fall 50%, that would bring us to $5,000, which going back here, noticing our VPVR at around 5,100, it's a possibility. We will keep our eyes on it, but currently let's not get ultimately bearish unless Bitcoin starts doing something, really crazy. But right now we are essentially just going sideways. Also talking about Bitcoin dominance, you noticed it's sort of been dancing around that 70% range. So what does that say for altcoins? Well, obviously if Bitcoin dominance maintains this height and we don't have a lot of new money coming in, then altcoins are probably not going to have rallies with the exception of, a few here or there maybe popping off because of some good news or something like that. I was telling you guys about Ethereum. You can see even again, we tried to break up at around that $186 level, broke back down. So not really a complicated chart with Ethereum. This is essentially my buy zone between 153 and 180. I think that's a very good buy, my opinion. I am accumulating some Ethereum, even though I'm still heavily in Bitcoin, very, very heavily in Bitcoin actually. But I am kind of starting to hedge a little bit because I think that we could really see some movement by the end of this year. And I just want to make sure that, I'm exposed to enough different things without being overexposed. But the thing I wanted to talk about too is that you had this report that came out from Bayer. I don't really know what they're called. BayernLB. I guess there's some kind of a German bank or something. And you can see that they say not a spurious regression variables are cointegrated. Okay, if May 2020 stock to flow ratio for Bitcoin is factored, shout out to Plan B over there, USD $9,000 emerges. And actually you can see in the report right here, they talk about, gold is in demand. They talk about the stock to flow ratio. Then they compare Bitcoin to gold. And, essentially they say there's a strong correlation between Bitcoin's market value and the stock to flow ratio. And this is essentially what I just pulled up in the tweet before. But, they say that Bitcoin has basically not deviated too much from this line. They also compare it to things like platinum, gold, and silver, etc. And you can see right here, essentially they're calling for a 90,000, you can see right here, $90,000 Bitcoin by May of 2020. Now, I just want to remind everybody that May of 2020 is the halving event, which Bitcoin has never put in an all-time high before that. So the question is, this would have to change history, essentially. If we're going to have $90,000 Bitcoin by May of next year, that means we would have to break 20K, which we've never done before. So I just kind of wanted to point that out. But you can see right here, they do say, conclusion, Bitcoin was conceived to be an even harder asset than gold. And right here, they do mention that a $90,000 Bitcoin is possible. So let me know if you think that's possible. A $90,000 Bitcoin. I mean, geez, guys. I mean, these prices are getting pretty crazy right here. If that happens, that would completely invalidate everything that Bitcoin has basically ever done, looking at previous halvings. But hey, there's a first time for everything, right? Also, speaking about what Maddie Greenspan had pointed out too, and this is more of the fundamental part of the video, is that Bitcoin volumes in Hong Kong have actually spiked to their highest, about 13 million Hong Kong dollars exchanged in the last week. Now, he does say for a portfolio manager, Bitcoin is still considered a risk asset, but for some people, it's clearly treated as a safe haven. So you can see right here, this is the actual article from Times, and it says, amid worsening political tension, hundreds of protesters gathered in the streets of Hong Kong Financial Quarter from lunchtime Wednesday in a spontaneous demonstration of anger over, I guess it was the shooting of this 18-year-old protester during the event. So you guys can watch this video if you want. It does get pretty intense. I'm actually going to pause that though. But essentially you can see police have responded with 1,400 rounds of tear gas, hundreds of rubber bullets, and water cannons, but appeared unable to control the disturbances. Well, long story short, essentially, basically the point is you can see right here, Bitcoin clearly I mean, if I zoom in here, this is massive, massive demand right here. I mean, even at the all-time high, Bitcoin was not seeing prices like that. So just wanted to point that out moving forward, and sort of just ending on a good note here. They did do a study. There was over 5,000 people. I don't know where they got this group of people from. They were between the ages of 18 and 65, and they were asked about their opinion on Bitcoin. Well, over 64% of them said that they don't have any Bitcoin and they don't plan on buying any. So that sounds pretty negative, right? However, it's worth noting that in this case, most people that were answering this were between 55 and 64 years old, almost 69%, okay? So when speaking to some of the younger generation, obviously they were a little bit more positive towards Bitcoin and crypto. They say more people appearing to be planning to invest in Bitcoin rather than already owning some, 7.3 to 6.2. It's also worth mentioning that 3.5% out of the 6.2% of voters claiming that they already own some Bitcoin said that they are not planning to buy any more. But we all know what happens. Bitcoin will hit 20K and then everyone will rush in and start buying at the all-time high again, and history will most likely repeat itself. But having a look right now, we are having a very boring sideways day. Let me know what you guys think. Are we actually gonna have this $16,000 Bitcoin by October? I mean, that's by the end of this month. I mean, that's pretty crazy. We'd have to have 100% pump this month. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying the guys are mowing my lawn right now. I don't know if you can hear them in the background, but anyway, I guess that means I should wrap this video up. But I mean, 100% pump, it's possible. I've seen Bitcoin do some crazy things before. Not necessarily likely, but anything can happen in Bitcoin. So that's it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Everyone that's been liking, subscribing, commenting, you guys rock. Also, drop a comment if you do want the ledger. And friendly reminder, if you haven't checked out Bybit, obviously be safe out there. But if you are looking to sort of long and short Bitcoin, you can hear the mowers out there. I do have a tutorial above. You can check it out. But obviously, I don't require anything from you guys. You know that. Just stopping by, saying hello, saying what up.